Hi there, my name is Lyndon Smith. I'm a business consultant and we're joined today for another episode of Becoming the Brand. I'm joined in studio today with Patrick von Pander, a business growth specialist and a digital transformation expert. Patrick, I wonder if you can give us an expanded elevator pitch of like who you are, what you do, and how you're out to make a difference in the world.
Terrific. First of all, thanks very much for having me today, Lyndon. I really appreciate this. And this is honestly one of my first ever podcasts. So this is turning out to be a great experience. So after almost a decade and a half in the telecom industry, during the time where it was deregulating here in Canada, I took a career change into business coaching. And I've been doing that now. Earlier this month, I celebrated my 20-year anniversary of coaching business people. I've coached over 1,200 clients one-on-one.
Wow.
I've worked with over 90 different corporate teams. I would say 2/3 of them are sales teams and 1/3 are executive or leadership teams, really helping them get the most out of their people. But along the way, what I've found was what most of my clients were really looking for is helping them take what's up here, that is their knowledge and experience and skills, and being able to document those and put them into systems and processes and policies and procedures and roles and responsibilities. And been doing that for a long time. And what I noticed was about 5-6 years ago, there was a definite shift where I came to the realization that the best way to embed those systems and policies and procedures, roles and responsibilities was to embed them into the systems and processes that really guides their workflows. And so out of that was born a question that they would ask with increasing frequency, and that was, which technology should I be incorporating to really run my businesses? Or run my business. And so that really brought me back into the technological aspect. So long story made a little shorter, working with business and people was a long time passion of mine, and combining those has been really rewarding. The last 4, 5, 6 years, increasingly the technology aspect of it has really played a key role in that. So I'm having a great time being able to work with businesses with the technology transformation and the digital adoption. And a lot of it is really taking them by the hand and either guiding them into what I call the technology forest. And I know that they haven't gone into the technology forest if they're still running like their business in a small part, or maybe mostly, or maybe completely off of spreadsheets. And then there's that cohort where if they are already in the technology forest, but they've got a disparate collection of all these different softwares and apps, and all of them are separate logins, separate databases, and really doing different functions, but not integrating to allow you to run the entire business enterprise cohesively. That's really been my joy, and that's where I've been working with most. So it's been really rewarding, and I love putting together these plans that then require some change management as well on the people side of it, to make sure that the people working within the company and within the business are really well matched to the technologies that are being recommended and implemented. So I hope that gives you.
Yeah. So if I have it right, I mean, you kind of get into a business, you zoom out together with the owners of the business, take a look at their complete technology stack that they've got, and explore some ways where you can kind of centralize everything together and optimize their processes and systems in a very structured and methodical
my ideal goal, it's not always possible to get there, is to be able to land on a single platform that allows them to operate across the full spectrum of business units, whether it's business development, which feeds and informs your operational product and service delivery aspect, and then of course your finance and accounting piece of that to ensure profitability. So it's I try to take the complex and simplify it, and I bring in a model that they can usually wrap their heads around, and then we go deep dive into each component piece. And every business is kind of in a different situation, whether it's size-based or, the evolution of their business in terms of technological sophistication. And every business has got their strengths and weaknesses. And so it's usually the weaknesses that we end up working on first, because that's what's usually holding them back from having the kind of results they really want.
It's always an interesting question, is which softwares to actually use, right? Because there are so many out there in the market, and you actually run the risk of just introducing another patch or another solution to something that's happening in your business, and you're just adding more and more to that stack that you've got. So optimizing that stack can make your business extremely efficient, and you save you heaps of money in the long term. So
there's a handful of things that I run into most often when I'm having conversations with owners or partners or leadership teams, and that is they're overwhelmed by all the choices. They're confused by the choices. They're fearful of making bad decisions, like investing in the wrong technology that's not going to serve them for 3-5+ years to come. And they tend not to have the in-house experience or expertise or skill sets to really evaluate what's out there. And so that becomes a real challenge.
Yeah, and often what I've experienced with business owners is when you're looking at a particular solution, they're looking at it for an immediate solution. It's not something that is going to necessarily serve their business in 3, 5, or even 10 years down the line. So is that something that you get into and you create a roadmap for the business? You take a look at their trajectory, their growth, and is this solution still going to be fit for purpose in say 5 years from now?
For me, Lyndon, it's the price of admission. I let them know right out of the gates. I'm not looking to have you solve your short-term immediate pain. It's the long-term effect. I'm looking to, whether it's for an exit out of the company, if it's an ownership situation, they want to exit, or they're just looking for growth. I look at it from a 3 to 5+ year perspective, and you want to have that conversation, and you want to have, you want to get an insight into what their vision is for that growth. It will have an impact on what I recommend if their aspiration is to grow, let's say 50% in the next 3 to 5 years, as opposed to another business that is looking for a 3x or 5x or 10x. That's going to have a definite impact on what choices are going to be the right choices for them to build their business on top of, to accommodate that growth trajectory. So good point. And absolutely, for me, it's the price of admission. And I come into it looking at the long term and the big picture. Yeah,
and there's obviously some economic factors that that come into play when looking at those long term projections, those forecasts. So I mean that was your introduction. Now I wonder if we can actually get into. So the purpose of this podcast series is all about becoming the brand. I wonder if can you share with us your experience, your business, and how you've developed your own personal, powerful brand that you carry with you today?
Let me start with a story. My mentor, when I was working at TELUS in the telecom industry, as I was heading out, he said, "Patrick, you're not going to have the big TELUS name and logo to open doors for you. Yeah. You're going to need to do, and you're not going to have it to be able to have people take your phone calls and return your calls. You're going to need to build your own brand, and you're going to need to build your own network of contacts and connections as an ultimate tool for leverage." And so when you're coming into a market, and at that time, almost no one knew what coaching really was. Yeah. We're talking 2003, 2004, 2005. It was starting to emerge in the US, but they were 3 to 4 years ahead of where Canada was in terms of adopting it or even understanding it. So, there's a heavy educational component involved in that. And and so I knew the brand was going to need to be playing a critical role, and it's recall, right? Being able to have people remember who you are. And one thing I learned in spades when I was at TELUS is they were very good at their marketing, right? Their visuals evoke emotion, and they typically have a real strong story behind it. So, you know, for me, when I came up with the brand, my brand, the Big Picture Coach, and the logo associated with that, I really wanted to put some thought into what is coaching. And so for me, I went through a whole process of really distilling it down to kind of a basic concept. What is coaching? And for me, the way I defined it was leveraged evolution.
Lovely. Do you want to expand on that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, leveraged evolution is, and it was really born out of a spirit that, you know what, in the marketplace is constantly evolving. It's moving forward. And if you don't evolve at all, you're going to be left behind.
Oh yeah.
If you evolve at the same rate that the marketplace is evolving, then you're not going to make any inroads. You're not going to get any further. You need to evolve faster than the market. Yeah. And so behind that, I wanted to sort of encapsulate that. And so when I broke down the two words, leverage, what for me was like a human invention for leverage. And I decided on the wheel. So a wheel lets us go faster than we could go on our own, further than we could go on our own, carry heavier loads than we could carry on our own. So I wanted to incorporate that into whatever the logo design was. Now, I suck at logo design or graphic design, but I wanted to be able to give direction to the graphic, the logo designer. So I wanted to have it represent the wheel. And a lot of the courses and programs that I craft, I seem to have this structure where it's like almost like a metric structure, like factor of 10. So there'll be like 10 modules per course, or 10 chapters, and 10 lessons per. And then I've written like 82 top 10 lists. So the number 10. So I wanted to have 10 spokes to the wheel. And it was like, okay, make the wheel 10 spokes. Then the word evolution was really representative of human development for me. And I feel that coaching is really a dynamic which accelerates that evolution. So I wanted to have the logo really represent evolution. And if you go down to its base form, we as a species, we came originally from the water, and then we moved on to land. And so if you look at the 10 spokes of the wheel, I asked my graphic designer to be able to say, okay, the spoke, in terms of color choices, the spoke at the 1 o'clock position, if you look at the logo as a face of a clock, 1 o'clock position is blue, and at the 12 o'clock position, it's green. And then you go through the whole spectrum of colors, and then you as a graphic designer, you just do your thing with the color choices in all of those 10 spokes. And that really was what they came up with. So that was the launch of that, because at that time, I didn't know whether I was just going to be a solo operator as a coach, or whether, I might want to go corporate or franchise and be able to really blow it up. I wanted to have the option. So my design, my logo, my branding, I wanted to have as many options as possible available to me. And at that time, there was a couple of coaching franchises that were just starting to emerge, and I wanted to leave that option open and available for me. So that sort of really informed how I wanted to approach it. I wanted to have that choice available.
Excellent. And when you started the business, were you clear on who your target, your client was, your ideal clients?
The marketplace is always right. I believe that. And so I didn't, even though I came from the corporate marketplace, I really hadn't held an executive position in a corporation. So I felt it was maybe premature. And I was, I was still pretty young at the time, relatively young. And so I didn't feel like I would have the credibility to do executive coaching. So I chose to go small, medium business coaching, like small, medium businesses and professionals. And it turned out that through, doing some sampling and market research, the first professions that really responded well to it were realtors, mortgage brokers, and financial advisors.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so for the first 5-6 years, that was 80% of my business. And the common element there were they were high ticket professional services, where every single incremental deal that they would do would be worth a lot for them. So helping them be able to tweak their performance and focus, they didn't need to sell that many more homes or do that many more mortgages or land any more like financial account or financial advisory clients to be able to afford me, especially when I started at a fairly reasonable low rate to build up my portfolio.
And Patrick, you mentioned that when you started the business, it was relatively new concept, business coaching. Were there a lot of competitors, or were you bumping up against other consultants fighting for business? I mean, how did you kind of define your USP or your unique selling proposition?
You bring up an interesting thing, because that was a real challenge in the first 12 to 24 months of educating. Actually, it was a little bit longer than that. But the first couple of years were very difficult when people were shaking their head and they were asking, what is this coaching thing, right? And you're a coach, isn't that a bus or a sports thing? Yeah. And so I would try to describe like the work that I did, and the comment I got most from that was, wow, that really seems like what a psychologist or psychiatrist or counselor would do.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I'm not that. I'm not that. I'm not trained to do that. I'm not interested in that. It's not my strength. And so I needed to figure out how to be able to brand, like provide that sort of distinction that was quick and would foster understanding. And so what I settled on, and I've been working with ever since if I've gotten this question, was, okay, those professions, they are problem focused and past oriented. Coaching is opportunity focused and future oriented. Taken to the extreme, I couldn't care less about your past. I care everything about your future.
It's the possibilities that you're creating for them, right?
That's what I'm trained for as a professional coach, is that opportunity and future orientation. And I've had my fair share of, prospects where if in the initial session, it's clear that they're still stuck in the past and they haven't resolved that yet, I'll refer them out.
Yeah.
And I've had times in my business where that's been 20 to 30% of the prospects. They're not ready for coaching.
Yeah.
They need to be focused on the future. And if they're stuck in the past, it's not my area of expertise and strength. And I'd much rather refer them out to a quality counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist to address that.
A distinct difference between a business coach and a counselor.
Very much so. Yeah. And I wanted to drive a wedge of understanding in having that be really clear for people. And I found that when I settled on that, it's the light bulb went on for most people most of the time, almost immediately. Yeah.
So what I get is that you're coming in. It's almost as if you're coming to create a high performing individual, right? And you're there to kind of point out those blind spots, give them some guidance, get them to kind of ebb and flow through, what's happening in their business, and just give them some direction that they're potentially not seeing, right?
I would describe it as I'm helping shape them into the leader that their business desperately wants
or needs. Yeah. All right, Patrick, I want to switch gears here, and I want to chat a little bit more about what your take is on using technology or video for brand? And is it something that you've dabbled with or experimented with, and how's it gone? Or what do you see in terms of developing a brand, how powerful video could be?
Well, first of all, I certainly have witnessed that we are now in the million channel universe, and it's called YouTube, and now all the derivatives from that, and it's hugely impactful because there's so many. I'm also double certified trainer in personality styles, and so one thing I learned from that discipline is that every different personality style has a different form of learning, what they're predisposed to in terms of how they learn. There's people that are very auditory in the way that they learn. There's others that are very visual. There's others that are very kinesthetic, tactile. And so the thing about video is it ticks multiple boxes, right? Almost all. If you don't get the tactile, experiential to the same degree, but it checks a lot of those boxes. And so it's no surprise to me that it's wildly popular, and it allows people to connect with you in ways that they wouldn't be able to if it was just in a written or auditory format or still photography. So it is much more engaging from that perspective. So have I dabbled in it? Not really in a big way, but that is. I'm planning to change that, and I'm looking to speak to maybe your team on how to do that, because I want to launch I'm going to be launching a new website that's a learning.
Excellent. Looking forward to that.
So I definitely want to leverage it, but it's hugely impactful that way. And the cool thing about it is that the cameras these days on your phones are so good now, and honestly, I believe that when something is too polished and produced, there can be situations where people maybe don't feel it's as authentic or as personalized. And so there's a great deal of opportunity to be able to use it, not only out there to help with business development and marketing, but I see a future where in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a lot more video deployed internally into the operational aspect of businesses, where businesses that are fed up and are just not ready and willing to wait on the universities and colleges to produce really high quality graduates that are ready to work inside the company. That more and more companies are going to be just setting up internal learning systems in their own businesses to be able to give their people or develop their people in the way that they need their people to function and operate.
And it aligns with their systems, their objectives, and
100%.
It forms a culture in the business, right?
100%. And there's great technologies out there that are super affordable that will allow you to be able to do that internally. And the people who are skilled and experienced inside the company can now capture samples of how to do the right things the right way to get the right results, which ultimately is what we're doing as coaching and consultants, is help them do the right things the right way. Well, if you've got the businesses doing that internally, man, you set yourself up to scale your business at a trajectory that's just stunning.
Leveraged evolution, right?
Leveraged evolution. Thank you.
So, Patrick, let's bring it to a pretty hot topic that's that's out there now. There's this open AI technology, Chat GPT, that people are talking about.
Oh my God!
And
yes.
How do you see this kind of technology changing the way that we can leverage our brands or empower business owners to really leverage their brands? I mean, there's a couple of things that I've thought about, like just preparing scripts for video, preparing content for social media, things like that. What do you see as a possibility for this new technology that's coming up.
So there's some good news here and there's some bad news here with this. The good news is there's going to be an opportunity to be able to, as you said, like produce content or be able to procure information and data to solve problems and capture opportunities at lightning speed compared to what we've been able to do in the past. The bad news is, I'm just giving you the highlights here, the bad news is it's going to flush out a lot of people who are what I would say are posers that are not really adding a ton of value. That's going to be highly disruptive. And so there's going to be an expendable number of people that are going to be having their functions and the value that they have, purported to offer be replaced. And so there's going to be a very, I think, sudden, dramatic shift out there. And I think that's part of the reason why everyone's talking about it. It's a simultaneous combination of excitement and fear,
and panic.
Well,
it's disruptive innovation at its core, right? And
yes.
I like to think of it as think about the internet. When that was introduced to the public all those years back, I think almost 3 decades ago. What was that like for people? What did they see? They were talking about Y2K and the world coming to an end. And look at what the internet has actually created for people. Look at all the jobs and opportunities that it's created. It's far more than what it's taken away from people. So I'm certainly a type of person that advocates for technology and the development of it, obviously in an ethical manner, like using it in an ethical way. And I think what I'm seeing is some incredible opportunities that lay ahead for businesses, for people, for education, the education system being completely revolutionized. So there's some big things that I think that lay ahead of us, and I'm very excited for that future.
Those that are predisposed and open and flexible to change are going to be disproportionate winners in this. Those who are still stuck to how they've been doing things, they are at highest risk.
Absolutely agree with you.
And so that is going to be, what is the saying? Let us live in interesting times. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and how we adapt. I'm reminded of I think it's, don't fault me if I get this wrong, but the U.S. Marines motto is we adapt, we improvise, and we win.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. It's just, it kind of gets the spirit of this.
I love that. Yeah. And that's why they're such powerful and successful people, right?
Yeah.
Patrick, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on our show today. I'm thrilled to be able to have this conversation with you. Do you have any last comments for our audience? Maybe a special offer that you have, something that, that you'd like to share with them, and maybe just your contact details?
Absolutely. I would love to, especially for your Canadian audience. Last year in the spring, I was approved as one of the official approved digital advisors for the federal government's Canada Digital Adoption Program.
The CDAP.
The CDAP program. And I'm part of the Stream 2 grant, which offers a 90% grant for having a digital advisor like myself come into your business, to your qualifying business, and create a digital adoption plan for your business. So the things that I talked about in terms of what I hear about in business, the other thing that a lot of businesses, small, medium enterprises in Canada are resistant to in terms of really pursuing technology is they don't always have the funds to be able to bring in an outside subject matter expert to help guide them. And so this grant program will cover 90% of my fee up to a maximum grant value of $15,000.
Wow.
And so since last summer, I've been doing an increasing amount of my work has been that. And so now over half of my work is creating these digital adoption plans for qualifying small, medium enterprises. So for those businesses in Canada
Yeah.
who are Canadian owned and controlled, privately owned, for-profit businesses. This is not for not-for-profits or not for publicly traded companies, but if they're that and they're between $500,000 or $100 million in top-line revenues in any one of the last 3 years, you're pretty much eligible, and so people can reach out to me, and I can share more details in a 30-minute Zoom calls with them on how that works.
Yep.
And once the digital adoption plan is done, they have 2 different government-supported resources to help them with the implementation of some or most or maybe all of what the plan calls for, and that can include up to $100,000 multi-year interest-free loan from BDC.
Excellent.
And up to $7,300 youth placement wage subsidy to hire like a recent graduate of a technology program or a co-op student from a technology program to help them with the implementation of what's called for in the plan. And so if they are short-staffed or tightly staffed, or they are missing a skill set, that's another resource that they can leverage. So it's a well-structured plan, and I would love to see, I was born and raised here in British Columbia. I love the West, and my heart's in British Columbia, so I want to see as much of that federal grant money come out west to help us strengthen our business base here as possible.
And change the world, right?
Let's go. Let's go.
These are the guys that are going to make a real difference out there.
Yeah.
Patrick, thank you so much.
Lyndon, thank you very much.
We're going to drop your details down in the chat below.
Yeah.
And then people can reach out to you directly and pick up the conversation.
Thanks for looking after me so well.
Thank you for joining us in studio today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure's been shared. Thank you so much, Lyndon.
Thank you for watching another episode of Becoming the Brand, and we'll see you again soon.